All right, this will be for the Chapter 1 practice test, the slope and equation of a line. All right, number 1, find the slope of the line containing the points 3, 1 and 4, -2. All right, so for slope, we are just doing change in y divided by change in x. So in terms of a math formula, it's going to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, the order you subtract has to be the same in the numerator and the denominator. All right, so if we look at the coordinates, the first coordinate is x, the second one is y. The first is x, the second one is y. So we need to subtract going in the same direction. All right, so for y2 minus y1, I am going to do 1 minus -2. That's in the numerator. 1 minus -2. And in the denominator, same thing, subtract in the same direction. 3 minus 4. All right, 2 negatives make it positive. And 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 4 is -1. And 3 divided by -1 is -3. So that is answer B. Number 2, are the lines 2x plus y equals 4 and 2x minus 4y equals 5 parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Okay, in order to make that determination, we have to find the slopes and compare. Okay, and in order to find the slopes, we want the equation in the form of y equals mx plus b. All right, so basically, in order to get this equation, you need to solve for y. Okay, you want to get y equals. So let's look at the first one. 2x plus y equals 4. All right, solving for y, the opposite of positive 2x is negative 2x. I apply that to both sides and it cancels here. And rewriting y equals, and we want mx plus b, so I'm going to write the x term first, so that's negative 2x. Plus b, so that's plus 4. All right, and we can see right here, the number that's times x is going to be the slope, m. So slope is -2. All right, and now we're going to do the same thing with the other equation. 2x minus 4y equals 5. All right, and we want to solve for y. The opposite of positive 2x is negative 2x. We do that to both sides, and it cancels here. This is y times -4. The opposite of times -4 is divided by -4, and it cancels here. And now we have y equals. And see these terms in the numerator, when they're added or subtracted over a common denominator, that means each one is over that denominator. So 5 is divided by -4, and -2x is divided by -4. All right, and remember we want the mx term first. So rewriting, That's going to be y equals negative 2 divided by negative 4. Well, let's see. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is just 2. And this would be 1, so it's 1/2 x. And 5 over negative 4 is just negative 5/4. All right, we can see from this equation the number that's multiplied by x, the slope equals 1/2. All right, so we have a slope of negative 2 and a slope of 1/2. So the slopes are not equal, okay? And in order for the lines to be parallel, the slopes would have to be equal. The slopes are not equal, so it's not parallel. Let's take the negative reciprocal of one of the slopes and see if we get the other one. All right, so to take the negative reciprocal, let's say we take the negative reciprocal of 1/2. There's 2 steps you want to do. You want to flip it and then change the plus minus sign. All right. So flip it. It means take the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/2 is going to be 2 over 1. And then change the plus minus sign. This is positive. That's negative. Negative 2 over 1 is the same as negative 2. Does it match the other slope? Yes, it does. So that means they are perpendicular. All right. So if you take the negative reciprocal you want to flip it and change the sign and see if it matches the other slope. If it does, then they are perpendicular. All right, so you only have to do the negative reciprocal on either one of the slopes and then see if it matches the other one. So I don't know the answer choices here or the letters for the answer choices, but it is perpendicular. All right, number 3 are the lines x equals 4 and y equals negative 4, parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Okay, so we don't really have line equations for these, but these are definitely going to be perpendicular, and I will explain why. Really, all you have to do is graph them. All right, this is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. So if we go to x equals positive 4 on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's this point right here. So the line for x equals 4 is going to be vertical. And if we go to y equals negative 4 on the y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the negative direction, that's this point right here. And the line is horizontal. All right, so from those 2 lines, you can see they make a right angle with each other. So that means they are perpendicular. All right, if it was x equals 4 and x equals negative 4, one of them would be right here. And they would just be parallel to each other. Okay, other than that, when they're parallel, they have to have the same slope. And if you can't prove parallel or perpendicular, then it's neither. Number 4, what is the equation of the line containing the points 0, negative 1, and 5, 1? So for the equations, we can see the equations are in the form of y equals mx plus b. The way I like to do it is to use point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, you don't have to do it that way. I'm going to show you both ways. But you can see in either equation, we need to find the slope. All right, so I'm going to do that first. And let's say the slope m, we said it before, that's change in y over change in x. All right, so you need to subtract in the same order. Going to the points here, I'm going to subtract. You can go either way. So choose the easier way. I'm going to go this way. 1 minus -1. Okay, the y's are the second numbers. So 1 minus -1 for the change in y. And the change in x, same direction, 5 minus 0. So the two negatives make it positive. 1 plus 1 is 2. And 5 minus 0 is 5. All right, so that's going to be the value for m. Now, like I said, I like to use this equation. So I'm going to plug in the 2/5 for the m. All right, so we got the slope m. And what you need to do is plug in one point, either one. You need to plug it in at the y1, and you need to plug it in at the x1. All right, so choose either one. And since one of the points has a 0 in it, I'm going to go with that one. Okay, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to go with this one, x1 and y1. All right, so we have 2/5 times x minus x1 is 0. And over here we have y minus y1. That's going to be y minus -1. All right, and let's see if I have room here. Y minus -1 is the same as y plus 1. And distributing, 2/5 times x is going to be 2/5 x. And 2/5 times 0 is just 0. Solving for y, if I do -1 on both sides, the 1 minus 1 is gone, and I have y equals 2/5 x minus 1. Okay, so you basically want to solve for y. And I can see already that's answer D, 2/5 x minus 1. Now, if you don't like point slope form, you can do it this way as well. You have to plug in the point at y and x. Okay, so same thing. This would be your x, and this would be your y. You can use either point once again. So we said y is -1. We said the slope m is 2/5. And we said the x was 0. And that's plus b. All right, so basically b is -1. All right, and then you rewrite the equation using b and the slope. You take the b, you plug it in there, and we have the slope m. So it would end up being the same thing, 2/5 x minus 1. All right, so either way works. I like point slope better because you distribute instead of solving for m, but solving for b, but it's the same thing. All right, number 5, find an equation of the line containing the point -1, -5, and parallel to y equals 2x minus 4. So you want to remember about parallel lines. They have the same slope. All right, and if you look at this equation, y equals mx plus b. M is the letter that represents slope. It's the number that's times x. So if you just look right there, the slope is positive 2. All right, because we said the parallel lines have the same slope, so we're going to keep that positive 2. So we need to use m equals 2. And for the new line, I'm going to use the equation y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right, just like before, we need to plug in the point at x1 and y1. All right, so you want to plug in the slope and a point. So the slope we have already, that's easy. The slope m goes right in there. And the point is given -1, -5. That's going to be x1 and y1. Okay, remember x is always the first coordinate and y is the second coordinate. Okay, so we have y minus y1. That's going to be y minus -5. And that equals m, which is 2, times x minus x1. And x1 is -1. All right, the two negatives make it positive. The two negatives here make it positive. So we have y plus 5 equals 2 times x plus 1. All right, we can see in their choices that they're all y equals. So we need to solve for y. I'm going to do -5 on both sides. Cancels here. Y equals, and distributing, 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times +1 is +2. We still have -5, and of course 2 minus 5 is going to be -3. So y equals 2x minus 3. That's answer choice A. Just like before, if you don't want to use point slope form, you can use y equals mx plus b. All right, and the slope would go right in place of m, and the point would be x and y. Okay, you take those and you plug it in for x and y, and you have to solve for b, and then rewrite the equation, and you would get this equation here. Number 6, find an equation of the line containing the point 3, 3 and perpendicular to the line y equals 2x plus 5. All right, you want to remember for perpendicular lines, the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. All right, so just like the previous problem, in order to find the slope of the original, and the original line is in the form of y equals mx plus b, you look at m, the number that's times x. So m, the slope equals m, which is 2. Okay, for the perpendicular slope, or the new slope, I'll write perpendicular slope. It's going to be 2 steps for the negative reciprocal. You want to flip it and change the plus minus sign. All right, so if you take the 2, that's the same as 2 over 1. Flip it or take the reciprocal, make it 1 over 2, and change the plus minus sign. Right now it's positive and now it's negative. So the perpendicular slope is going to be negative 1/2. All right, that's your new slope. This was the original. All right, so now it's the same as we just did a minute ago. I like to do y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And for the point that passes through, that's going to be your x1 and your y1. All right, it gets plugged in right there and right there. And the new slope that we found plugged in right there. All right, let's see. Y minus y1, which is 3, equals m, which we said was negative 1/2, times x minus x1, which also happens to be 3. Now, if you see the answer choices here, they're all y equals. So we need to solve for y. All right, so I'm going to do plus 3 on both sides. Three minus 3 cancels, and I have y equals, distributing negative 1/2 times x, and negative 1/2 times negative 3. Negative times negative is positive, and 3 divided by 2 is going to be 3/2, and plus 3. Now, I'm going to have to add 3/2 plus 3, so I might as well make a common denominator of 2. 3 is the same as 6 over 2. So now I have a common denominator, and I can actually add. All right, y equals negative 1/2 x. 3 plus 6 is positive 9, and the common denominator is 2. So that is the final answer with the common denominator of 2, negative 1/2 x plus 9/2. Answer A. All right, so to sum it up, for the perpendicular slopes, you need to take the negative reciprocal of the original. All right, the original slope was 2. Flip it and change the sign, we get negative 1/2, and then plug it in here and plug in the point. All right, you can also use y equals mx plus b. The new slope would go right in there in place of m, and the point would go in place of x and y. All right, you'd plug it in. You'd plug it in for x and y. Plug it in for x and y, plug in the slope m, and then you'd have to solve for b and rewrite the equation. Number 7, find an equation of the line in figure 118. All right, here's figure 118. Notice their choices are all in the form of y equals. All right, so we definitely need to write y equals mx plus b. All right, so y equals mx plus b. And let's see, if we were to calculate the slope m, see if we can do that here. We got one point here, and if I can grab one other point, let me see here. I think this point here would be at -4. All right, so this point here is 0, 4, right? 0 on the x and 4 on the y. And this point here is at -4, 2. So the slope we know is change in y over change in x. So subtract going the same way. The y is the second number, 4 minus 2. And the x is going to be 0 minus -4. The two negatives make it positive. 4 minus 2 is 2, and 0 plus 4 is 4. And reducing, they're both even numbers. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. All right, that's your slope m. So the 1/2 goes right in there. B is the y-intercept, and we know that is where the line intercepts or crosses the y-axis. All right, this right here is your y-axis. This right here is your x-axis. So that point is your B, right on the y-axis. That's going to be 4. So that's it. Those are the only variables you need to write the equation. It's going to be 1/2 x plus 4. And that is answer B. Number 8, find an equation of the horizontal line that goes through the point 4, 9. All right, let's see if we have a graph here. And I'm not even going to, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. I'm not even going to draw in the little notches. I'm just going to estimate. Okay, 4 on the x and 9 on the y. All right, so if I go about 4 units on the x and then about 9 units on the y. So that's 4, 9, that's right here. That point is 4, 9. Now let's draw a horizontal line through that point. Okay, vertical is up, down. We know that horizontal is left, right. So if I draw a line through that point, the line is never going to cross the x-axis, but it does cross the y-axis. And what point is that? Well, if this is y equals 9, over here it's still y equals 9. Over here it's y equals 9. Over here it's y equals 9. Okay, the y-coordinate is how far up, down it is. So the equation for this line is just y equals 9. That's it. That's answer B. If they had asked a vertical line and we drew it like that, it wouldn't go through the y-axis. It would go through the x-axis at x equals 4. So if it said vertical, it would have been x equals 4. But they said horizontal, so it's y equals 9. Number 9 are the points -5, -1, 1, 4, and 6, -2, the vertices of a right triangle. Okay, so remember a right triangle is going to have a right angle. So you want to find two lines that are perpendicular. And we said before, for perpendicular, the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. All right. So you could find 3 slopes and see if 2 of them are negative reciprocals, or you can draw a rough sketch and see where the right angle might be. All right, so let's do that, because I don't feel like finding 3 slopes. But maybe you would prefer to do that instead of sketching a graph. So it's up to you. All right, so I'm just going to estimate -5, -1. All right, I'm going to go -5 and -1. And then 1, 4, 1 on the x, 4 on the y. And finally 6, -2. So 6, -2 is about right there. So let's see if I drew this triangle. Maybe the graph doesn't help. Yeah, I can't really see where the right angle is from that graph. Okay, I'd probably need graph paper to do it right. All right, so let's just find the 3 slopes. All right, let's call this A, B, and C. All right, so for slope A, change in y is going to be 4 minus -1. Change in x is 1 minus -5. 2 negatives make it positive. 4 plus 1 is 5. 1 plus 5 is 6. Slope, what did I do here? AB. This was AB. All right, now let's do BC. Change in y is going to be -2 minus 4. Change in x is going to be 6 minus 1. -2 minus 4 and 6 minus 1. And lucky, we don't have to do the slope of AC. We don't need it, because I can see it already here. Look at the slope of AB, and for the negative reciprocal, flip it, so 5 over 6 is going to be 6/5, and change the plus minus sign, so that's going to be negative. -6/5 matches -6/5. So the answer is yes. It's a right triangle because these are perpendicular. All right, and you need 2 perpendicular lines to make a right angle. If we couldn't do this with any of the slopes, for one of them, take the negative reciprocal and see if it matches another one, and the answer would have been no. But anyhow, the graph didn't help. Last one, a government agency leases a photocopier for a fixed monthly charge, plus a charge for each copy. In 1 month, the bill was $350 for 4,000 copies. The following month, it was $375 for 5,000 copies. Find the monthly bill in terms of number of copies. All right, you see the answers are y equals mx plus b. So when you have y equals mx plus b, you basically write y in terms of x. All right, so we want the monthly bill in terms of number of copies. So the monthly bill is going to be the y, and the number of copies here is going to be the x. All right, so let's make a little table given the information, using the information we were given. All right, we said the monthly bill is y, so the first monthly bill is $350. That's your y. All right, this is the bill for y, and x is the number of copies. All right, so the first bill was $350. The second bill was $375. Now for the copies, the first one was 4,000. And the second one was 5,000. All right, so now we have 2 points and we can make a line. All right, you always need slope for a line. So change in y over change in x. I'm using Greek letters here. Change in y over change in x. That's a Greek letter, delta. So subtract the y's. 375 minus 350. Subtract the x's. 5,000 minus 4,000. Notice I subtracted going the same way on both of them. 375 minus 350 is 25. 5,000 minus 4,000 is 1,000. And that is going to equal 0.25. That's your slope. And we can see here this is the only one with a slope of 0.25. So that would really be it right there. If you want to continue, I'm going to need to make a little room, but the slope m is 0.25. So let me make some room here. All right, so I like y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right, you plug in 1 point at y1 and x1, and you plug in your slope. So we can use either one of these, but make sure you use the respective one. Like this y goes with this x. So this is going to be my y1, and the 4,000 is going to be my x1. All right, so it's going to be y minus y1, which is 350. And that equals m, which is 0.25, times x minus x1, which is 4,000. All right, I'm going to add 350 to both sides. It cancels here, and y equals 0.25x, and 0.25 times negative 4,000. A fourth of negative 4,000 is going to be negative 1,000 plus 350. All right, little mistake. The slope was 25 over 1,000. The slope is actually 0.025. So I need to distribute 0.025. Let me fix that mess. The slope is 0.025. The 350s canceled. 0.025 times x. And 0.025 times negative 4,000 is going to be negative 100. You could do that on the calculator if you need to. And plus 350, negative 100 plus 350 is going to be positive 250. All right, I ran out of room, but that checks out. The slope checks out. So that's going to be answer D. Okay, if you want to use y equals mx plus b, you plug in this point and the slope, and you have to solve for b. I like to distribute better, but either way works.